time is now 28 minutes to 9. Ever since the Glasgow shopkeeper Assad Shah was murdered at the end of last month, the spotlight has been on the tiny Muslim community he was a part of, the Ahmadiyyas. Last week, a Glasgow MP called for a debate in Parliament about the discrimination and prejudice that they suffer. It's something our reporter Zoe Conway has been looking at.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
They follow the Prophet Muhammad and the teachings of the Quran. But Ahmadi Muslims don't believe Muhammad was the final prophet. They believe he was followed in the 19th century by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. For this belief, they're sometimes shunned by other Muslims, as they explained to me at an Ahmadi mosque on the south side of Glasgow.
Talking with you, saying salam to you is a sin, is a haram.
When I told the other kids who I was an Ahmadi Muslim, they went along to their mosque, asked their imam, came back saying that we've been told if we want to succeed in life, we shouldn't go near you, because that's where everything is coming from, is the imam.
They also told me that posters have appeared in shop windows calling them non-believers. The police took one down just last week.
See this one in Urdu.
And derogatory leaflets have been circulated at a nearby mosque.
My name is Abdul Abid. I am the president of the Ahmadiyya Community for Scotland.
And just tell me about this leaflet you've got here on your desk.
It was collected about maybe more than a year ago. And it says that, O Muslims, whenever you meet an Ahmadi, the effect of that meeting is that the heart of the Prophet Muhammad is hurt.
So this is very insulting.
Very, very insulting. I mean, who knows what's happening in the heart of the Holy Prophet?
I'm a 10-minute walk away from the shop where Assad Shah was murdered, and I'm here to meet one of his closest friends, 23-year-old Mohsin.
I was with him 2 nights ago before he was murdered. Me and him used to sit there, chat about how we can make this world a better place, just chat about business, general stuff, and that happened to him. It was just such a big shock. So that's why I worry now, is if that's happened to one of my closest friends, that can happen to anybody. That can happen to anyone in my mosque. So that's why a bit of a threat to me is coming into my mentality, to be honest, just to be a bit more vigilant and cautious.
So dumb. In the Damat household, the children are playing Grand Theft Auto. Their parents live in the heart of Glasgow's Asian community, Pollock Shields, and they say that over the years their businesses have been boycotted because they are Ahmadi. And what were you selling?
Asian fabric shops and clothes, curtains, silk.
Who are these people? What were they doing to your shop?
Other community, like other Muslim peoples, they're from the mosque.
And so were people standing outside your shop telling other Muslims not to come in?
Not to buy the clothes from here because...
Why?
Because they think we are not Muslim.
Problem is now you had all this trouble with your shops, but now your wife, she has this trouble with wanting to run a catering business.
Don't come to me and say order and give me the order. They stop giving me when they come to know that I'm Ahmadi Muslim.
Can you continue with your business?
No, I'm not doing now because I'm not getting orders, so I'm not doing it.
Zoe Conway reporting. Well, Assistant Chief Constable Mark Hamilton is the lead on hate crime for the National Police Chiefs Council. I spoke to him a little earlier and asked how much of a problem this bias and prejudice is for the Ahmadi community.
I think, truthfully, Sarah, from a policing perspective, we don't really have a great feel for how big the problem is. When we look generally at hate crime figures for England, Wales and Northern Ireland, just excluding Scotland for the minute, only 6% of hate crime reported relates to religious hate crime, and for us that was only over just 3,000 crimes in the year 14-15. Although the British Crime Survey would estimate that the real figure sits around 38,000. So we know that generally hate crime in the United Kingdom is underreported. We know that hate crime of a religious nature is underreported. We suspect strongly then that intra-faith hate crime, which sort of falls into the categorization of sectarian crime, is very underreported. The Ahmadi community are a very small community in the UK. I've read estimates of around 30,000 people against an overall Muslim community of maybe 2.7 million plus. So genuinely, we're only starting now to get a feel for this issue. I think the last number of months, we've started to get a sense of the issues that are developing amongst the Muslim community, not just against Ahmadi, but also between Sunni and Shia. Some of these things relate to the international stage, and when we see things happening internationally, then sometimes we get a response here in the UK.
And how big is that problem, the division between Sunni and Shia in the UK?
We're only starting to get a feel for how difficult this might be for the Muslim community as a whole, and the difficulties going inside it. Our appeal generally to people is that we need to start understanding and defining hate crime very clearly. We have a good strong definition for it here in the UK, but many people don't understand that they may have been a victim of a hate crime, and many people don't understand that they can access services from the police. We'd like to see the reporting these levels go up. The police service around the UK is well connected to deal with these issues and is developing its policies, procedures. We feel we are fairly far ahead in the Western world in dealing with these types of crimes, but we need to work more closely with communities to understand them better.
Okay, so because you're pointing always to the under-reporting of it, what about the police's handling of it when somebody does come to them and say, look, this happened?
Well, I think you'll find some great practice around the UK in terms of hate crime. I think you'll find that that we have come a long, long way since 1992 when hate crime really came to the fore with the murder of Stephen Lawrence. We have well-established practices, well-established policies. Hate crime gets a more enhanced response in most police services around the UK, and that includes Scotland. We're well connected in the community. We work very closely with the likes of Tell Mama. We work on the cross-government hate crime action plan, and I think the response that you'll get in the UK to hate crime is far in a way better than you will get in most countries around the world. Now that said, we don't think it's good enough. We think there's more effort to be had, and we also know that lots of people have issues about confidence with the police. They're reluctant to come forward to talk to the police about these issues, and they're also sometimes concerned about the response they're going to get.
That was Mark Hamilton talking to me a little earlier. Well, Rafiq Hayat is leader of the Ahmadiyya community in the UK, and he's here in the studio now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Is this something that affects you? Are you aware of prejudice?
Very much so. I think this prejudice actually comes from the Indian subcontinent, from Pakistan. And previously in this country, there was very little of that. But with the Muslim clerics who are now coming in from the subcontinent, we are seeing more and more of the hate crime being committed in this country. We are seeing that there's an undercurrent, even in schools, universities, colleges. We are seeing that hate message being transmitted to students, to young people. I have a daughter who is a teacher, and a 7-year-old girl, a Muslim girl, came to an Ahmadi girl who they were friends and said, my mother's told me you are an Ahmadi, therefore I shouldn't be friends with you. So this thing is getting deeper and deeper into society. And the Muslims must now, the responsible leaders within the Muslim community must decide what type of community are we going to create in this country.
Okay, when you come across it, do you tell people to go to the police?
We do indeed. But the thing is that, sometimes it is very difficult when these things are happening at that level to continue to involve the police into this matter. But it is very, very important that the community leaders now put a stop to this. The Muslim Council of Britain, for instance, can do a lot to try and nip this in the bud now. Because if they don't, then we will have the same type of problems as we are experiencing in Pakistan. In Pakistan, our community is really at this moment in a big target for hate crime in that country.
But if you have something like that, you're saying as if you've got a child who's experiencing it, it's not something you'd go to the police about?
Well, it's at that level, it's very difficult to report it to the police. What do you say? I mean, it's something that's been said in the home, and it's very difficult for a parent to go and say...
What's the alternative, though?
The alternative is that the Muslim community as a whole have to try and sort this problem out.
You mean leaders of...
The leaders of the Muslim community. They have to decide that unless they do something now, we will continue to have hate crime in this country, and eventually the situation will get worse and will be a situation as we see in Pakistan, where it is now affecting the whole of the society.
Of course, you'll know from the response from this, we've seen it publicly, so many people saying, well, they're not really Muslims.
Well, I think the thing is, whether we're Muslims or not, that's not for individuals to decide. It's between you and God. Religion is something that should be left to God. And we practice Islam. We read the prayers. We fast. We believe in the Holy Quran. We believe in the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him.
And is this something different, do you think, than, say, for example, that same family? Would they have stopped their daughter playing with, a white British girl?
Well, it starts with one group, but then it goes to other groups, of course. And then you'll find that it starts with the Ahmadis, as it happened in Pakistan, started with our community, but now it's spread to other communities. So the Shias, the other Christian communities are now being affected by that same hate message. And the clerics who are coming from Pakistan are propagating that same hate message in this country. And they must be stopped.
Do you have confidence in the police that if you do, gets to the point where you do think, look, we should involve the police here, do you have confidence that they will know how to handle it?
We have a lot of confidence in the police here. We think that they will be able to handle it, provided they understand the depth of the problem. I think part of the problem is that they haven't really got a total handle on how deep this is. And once they've understood it, the other problem that our current hate legislation isn't strong enough for the police to be able to deal with some of these hate crime. And unless we strengthen the legislation, I think we'll find that...
How?
Well, the thing is that at the moment, we've went a few times in few incidences where we've reported to the police. They felt that it wasn't something that they could prosecute. And therefore, in that case, we had to just live with it.
Because they said it's free speech.
This is free speech, yes. That is the other issue. In this country, we have free speech. And of course, I think that's the right thing. And Islam also allows free speech. But the free speech comes with responsibility.
Okay. Now, just briefly, when I asked you for an example, you mentioned the little girl. Is it something you also notice?
Yes, of course. We found sometimes on Radio 4, when we had our big mosque was opened, on Radio 4, I was interviewed about the mosque, and then the then person in charge of Muslim Council of Britain came, and he spoke in a derogatory terms on Radio 4 against our community, and that should not be acceptable.
Rafiq Hayat, thank you very much.
Thank you.